Computer games.
Yeah.
We're going to play computer games.
Computer games.
So you must have gotten BF1.
No. What? No. No, I didn't get BF1.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's excited about BF1, but I didn't get BF1.
Onward. You said this.
Onward.
Onward.
Now you're talking my
right.
talk. Yeah.
Tell me,
So-
what is Onward?
Onward is actually, it's alpha or beta. I'm not even sure. It's not even completed yet, quite honestly. But it's on the bleeding edge of what is the new VR, virtual reality world.
Okay, you've really dug into this.
This is something else. So virtual reality, if you're not familiar with it, it's been a technology that we've been all waiting for in cyberpunk land for decades.
Mm-hmm.
I had a virtual reality headset in the 90s that was called IO glasses. So the idea is what you do is you put on a helmet, it puts some sort of three-dimensional display in front of you, usually a screen for left and right eye, audio exclusion, so you've got essentially headphones on,
Yep.
and it does head tracking. So when you look around, you're actually looking in a three-dimensional space. Now,
So in this case, you've actually got IR sensors mounted up in the wall of your whatever your room you're doing this in.
correct.
And there are little receptacles on the headset.
Yeah, receptacles.
And they track the headset.
They
moving.
track the headset. They also track your hands.
Okay.
So there are controllers that you have in your hands. And so with this headset on, and your muffs on, and your head looking around. So now in the 90s, we had just head tracking. So you'd look around, and you'd have essentially a 180-degree field of view. And it was completely done via some sort of gyrometer or something that was in the headset. Now they're doing it by IR. Triangulation, essentially. So like you said, there's the cameras there's like little cameras or IR sensors in the helmet. There's these IR beacons that are coming out of the sides of the wall that give you what's called room scale. By the way, I'm talking about the HTC Vive. Oculus Rift is the alternative to that, and they're going to have room scale in the near future.
Okay.
Probably around December, but they don't quite have that yet. So right now we're talking about HTC Vive. You have these two hand controllers that are also detected not by the sensors in the walls, but actually by the helmet. And so what you have is a full 360 degrees of movement.
Yep.
You can look down, you can look up, you can look left, you can look right. You bring your hands up in front of you, and you have hands in this virtual space, all rendered by the computer.
Right.
So a couple of things have done that have manifested to make this possible. The computer's fast enough now to be able to render 90 frames per second to each eyeball.
Wow.
And remember, you have two different images. You have a right eye and a left eye image, and it's generating all that.
Yep.
And it's generating graphics that are better than you would have seen in a standard two-dimensional game on a computer just a few years ago.
Yep.
So these are hard, essentially high-powered computers doing this to do it well. Okay, but then you put this helmet on, and you're in this virtual space. That's virtual reality.
Yep.
So what Onward is a combat first-person shooter that is virtual reality enabled.
Right.
But let me differentiate between first-person shooter and combat sim.
Right. That's the critical difference here, because the average person just looking at this is like, oh, well, that's kind of like Battlefield. Take your pick, whichever.
Battlefield 1, Battlefield 2, Call of Duty.
Except some of the stuff looks a little blocky, maybe.
Maybe a
Other
little
than that, it looks like an action first-person shooter.
Now, there's been 2D versions of games that have been more on the combat sim side. They're not. No offense to anyone that enjoys Battlefield or Call of Duty; those are fun games. I get it, but they're not combat sims. They're first-person shooters.
Right.
Combat sims like ARMA, Red Orchestra, Red Orchestra 2, Rising Storm. These are more based on the sim side. Which, if you're into tactical combat shoot and movement, strategy on the battlefield, guns that handle or manipulate or work like reality.
Well, and also maybe more importantly, skills that are not shooting. There's a lot of stuff in combat that isn't pulling a trigger.
In fact, well, I think you could argue, and again, you and I haven't been in combat, but maybe some of our viewers have, and they could chime in. But the reality is the shooting part's probably the least of it.
When it beyond the very basics, yeah.
You need this. You need the shooting skill when you need it.
Yep.
But the combat part, the shooting is that's a basic fundamental that must be there.
Yep.
But that isn't the fighting.
Right.
The fighting is, and we know this from you can know this by just reading. World War I, World War II, tactics, strategy, fire team, fire and movement, cover, support. All these things matter more. Communications probably more than anything.
Yep.
Than any of the rest of this.
And that sort of stuff doesn't really come into play in most computer games.
Not most. There are some, like I said, there's been some 2D ones like Red Orchestra and ARMA and others that have tried.
Right.
But if you take ARMA or Red Orchestra, think about that, and now put this into a three-dimensional world in which you have hands, three-dimensional objects, guns on slings that you pick up and actually manipulate like you would a normal gun, to the point where you're actually running the action on an AR-15, or manipulating the safety, or changing the magazines by pulling the magazine out, taking it off your person and putting it in.
And the thing's tracking your hand controller, so it knows what you're doing and what you're reaching for. And if you look down in the game, and bring your hand up, you'll be like, oh, I have a smoke grenade and a frag grenade and a magazine down here. Grab the magazine.
Yep. And being attacked. And so you're running through this, whether it's a desert environment, a CQB, a subway system. Right now the game is 4 versus 4, so you have 2 fire teams.
Yep.
four good guys, 4 bad guys, depending on which team you're on is who the good guys or bad guys
Yeah,
are.
well, you're always on the good guy team.
You have a radio, right? You have a radio on your left shoulder, which actually you manipulate with your hand. You let go of your gun, you squeeze it, you talk to your your fire team.
The thing that I think is really cool is the game, obviously, it knows how close you are to everyone else. And if you just speak, there's a microphone and it picks up what you're saying and it conveys that. If anyone close to you can hear you speaking in the game. You also have a radio on your helmet, and when you hit that, the rest of your team can hear you no matter where you are.
So like you and I in a hallway, I could talk to you like this.
Right.
Right now, in VR, I could be saying, hey, Ian, there's a guy around the corner, watch for that.
Right.
Let's say Ian's no longer here. You're on the other side of the map.
Right.
Ian, there's a guy near the north building, 380 degrees from us or wherever, and you would hear that then.
Exactly.
Yeah, 380
And
degrees. Isn't that awesome?
And that,
What's 380 degrees?
I think it's 360 degrees.
I know, so it'd be 20 degrees.
More, yeah. And that applies to enemy as well as friendly.
So you're a bad guy behind a wall, and I go, hey, Ian, there's a guy in the building 380 degrees from you. Because you're on the other side of the wall, and
I'm
you
like-
could hear my voice, you'd hear that. You'd know I'm stupid for
Hey,
saying...
guess what? Carl's right in
You'd
front
know
of
I'm
me.
stupid for saying 380 degrees, but you'd also have heard me speaking,
Right.
or moving, or using this, and you could come around the corner and flank me.
Right.
Or surprise me for that.
Yep.
There's flashbangs, there's frags, there's smoke grenades.
The level of immersion, it's hard to really describe it without having experienced it, but it is a fundamentally different thing than sitting at a computer screen with a mouse and a keyboard.
So I've done a lot of time in this. I'm well into 50 hours on Onward. Let's go ahead and go into the game, show you some weapons manipulation, show you some combat footage. And by the way, I want to explain one thing. In the weapons manipulation, you will see the reticles that I'm aiming with. In the actual combat footage, you're not, because I'm right-handed, right eye dominant. In the game, you can tell it if you're right or left-handed. And when you're actually capturing the game through the video capture service, it captures left eye only. So the combat footage is still useful to show you because of the comms going on and the fire team and squad and movement.
It's really cool.
Yep. And so you're not, when I bring the gun up, you're not going to see the reticle. Just accept that. But let's go show you some of that, and then let's have conclusions at the end. All right, so I look ridiculous, but that's okay. I wanted to explain to you what's going on with this virtual reality equipment and what you need to be able to experience something like this. This happens to be an HTC Vive. There are 2 virtual reality headsets on the market right now that are viable for this type of stuff. There's the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. The Oculus Rift right now does not have hand controllers. Those hand controllers are called the Touch, and they're coming out in December. So until that happens and you add other sensors in your environment to be able to do what's called room scale, you won't be able to use the Oculus yet. So right now this is an HTC Vive only experience, although that will change in the near future. What you can't see here, there are 2 sensors in my room that are actually detecting my movement in space. They use infrared. They check out the location of the helmet as well as the hand sensors, and that's how it renders these things in the 3D space. So that's the technological part, and this is all attached to a very high-end computer to be able to run any of this at 90 frames per second per eye, so to give you stereoscopic vision. That said, let's go through what's important to the Onward experience. So these are the hand controllers. You're going to see me reference this in the combat footage. So there is a touch-sensitive touchpad right here, thumb pad. You actually swipe your fingers or thumb around that to do different things. In your right hand, if you're right-handed, you would swipe down to disconnect or drop a magazine. You would swipe the left side up or down to switch the selector switch, for example, on an M16 A4. This is the trigger to fire the gun, obviously. And then there are 2 buttons on each side, gripper buttons. And as you squeeze your hand, you use that to grip the gun. So if you want to grab the pistol grip of an M16, you would literally grip it like you would just squeezing your hand. Same thing, grip buttons on the left hand. However, on the left hand, this touchpad or thumb pad is your movement. So you would actually touch it forward or swipe forward or keep your thumb forward to move forward, backwards, strafe left, strafe right. Remember, turning is actually done in physical space. You don't turn with the controller, you turn by actually turning your actual body, as well as your head is on a swivel, just like it would be in real life. If you double click and hold it, that's to run. And you can also kneel, prone, all that is represented in the game. We'll talk about that more. So what I have here is this ridiculous thing, sometimes referred to as a noob tube. It is a piece of PVC pipe with an M4 stock taped to the end and a sling, and this allows me to have a more realistic experience with the rifles or long arms in the game. If you weren't really already a shooter like we are, a 2-gun, etc., you may not need this. You can actually just hold the controllers like this to simulate holding up a rifle, but having this provides such a more realistic experience in the game. So you actually can stick the controllers in these little PVC holes, and you actually have a low rating. You can bring it up just like you would bring up a rifle in real life, and that having that shoulder chin weld thing for someone who shoots real guns makes a huge difference in the game, and I highly recommend it. This was cheap to make. It's just some PVC pipe taped together. And you can actually do things like transition. So here I am at rifle and I need to transition to handgun, pull the controller out, pull it out of your holster, and shoot your handgun like you would normally. You can double grip a handgun if you really wanted to. You can also drop it to sling, grab a grenade, pull the pin, throw it underhand, throw it overhand. We're going to talk more about in the combat footage. So to give you an idea what this looks like, let's suit up. We put our helmet on, put our ears on, and we're ready to go. So here we are. This is nothing more than a training environment. You see we've got two virtual hands here, right hand, left hand. These are actually controllers in real life, but when you are actually in VR, they look like hands, which is something you got to get used to. Okay, so here's my person. I've got a M16A4 with a Neotech on sling. You don't see the sling, but that's essentially what we're dealing with here. Frag grenade, syringe. To my right is a pistol. And there's magazines here as well. I'll show that in a minute. So to pull the gun up off a sling or off your person, you use the grip controller's grip panels and grab the pistol grip. That gives you a right hand control, and then you're eventually going to grab that foregrip with your left hand. Well, if you're right-handed, you could reverse this if you need to. Right now we are set to semi, and with the thumb pad on the right hand, you flip it. You literally swipe it like you would the real deal. Down, semi, up, 3-round burst. Let's go with semi for now. Okay, cool. You can actually manipulate the gun as you would normally. We can bring the charging handle back, eject one live round. Don't need to be doing too much of that. Let's go ahead and take some shots on target. Let's go to 3-round burst. Alright, we're out. So at that point, take the left hand off the gun. As you would in real life, you swipe down on the thumb pad, which is to indicate dropping the magazine. Magazine falls out. Grab a magazine off your body, literally with the grip panels on your left hand. Insert it into the mag well, run the action, and you are ready to shoot some more. We're out again. Good with the rifle. Let's drop that for now. To drop it back on sling, let go with your left hand and your right. It drops the sling. Let's go ahead and go with our pistol. You put your hand down to your right placement where your holster would be, grip panels, and boom, M9. Looks like an M9 because it is an M9. Let's take some shots on the targets. These targets don't react. This is just a weapons familiarization course. That's all it's for. That's why I'm demoing it here, so that when you see when we're playing the game, you're dealing with weapons that actually handle and act pretty much like the real thing. Yep, and we are out. Bolt slide locks back. Sweep down to drop the magazine. Magazine off the person. Insert it in the gun. Left hand to release the action. And ready to shoot some more. Let's drop the pistol. Put it back in the holster. Let's go ahead and throw a frag. So right hand, looking down. Grab the frag grenade. Left hand pulls the pin. Spoon is still there. I'm going to underhand toss this. So you literally would throw it like you would throw the real thing. I'm going to underhand it. And you let go of the grip panels to throw the grenade. Boom. There it is. Alright, so here we're on the Volk side. We got on our person smoke grenade, 2 syringes, and a Makarov pistol. So let's go ahead and pick up the AK-74U and show you that's actually well modeled. It looks like the real deal. Proper suppressor, Bakelite mag. Selector is currently set to full auto. I can swipe up and go to semi. Swipe down to go to full auto. Let's go ahead and go to semi for now. And let's take some shots on some targets. The Cobra sight. Remember, we're suppressed now. All right, let's go ahead and sweep down to full auto. All right, we are out. So I take my left hand off the gun. I pull down with the right thumb pad and pull the magazine out. On the American guns, you just push down and the mag drops free. On the AKs, you actually have to pull it out. Discard it, grab it on there, put it on, run the action, and we are good to go. All right, these targets don't do anything. Again, this is just a weapons familiarization course. Drop it. So a considerable amount of effort was placed into modeling the weapons themselves. Here we have a 249 saw, and even before you can start using the weapon, you actually have to have some basic understanding or fundamentals of how this gun works. So let's go ahead and load it. So you got to go through that process of getting the belt in there, and let's go ahead and fire some rounds, and we'll give you an idea what this is like. Tell you, there's a belt fit, obviously the 249 saw here. On the oppositional side, there is the PKM, and these things lay down a lot of heat. They're very valuable in the game, just like they would be in real life. And while there aren't really any malfunctions that have been designed into the game yet, just being able to manipulate the gun and work it properly is there's something to be said for that. So, kind of cool, pretty well modeled. So there's quite a bit of variety of weapons in the game. Here we see a P90 in its suppressed form with a EOTech on top, 50 round capacity like the real thing, and the guns you choose do have impact on your speed of movement. You can run faster with certain guns than you can with others, and so there's an actual advantage to picking certain things in the game versus others. This has less stopping power, and I can tell you that when you shoot people with this, you got to get them a couple times and knock them down, but it's also got the high rate of fire and what you'd expect from a PS9 or P90. Well, here we have the infamous G3 with Ian's favorite sights, as we know from the match videos. So let's go ahead and give that a whirl. We'll see what that's like. All right, so there's a little more indication of the variety of guns in the game. Let's go get an ACOG. I'll show you Nick's shooting there, but let's move up here. Get the same sight picture we had earlier, and you'll get an idea of what the difference is. Ah, much better.